To me, in my heart, you're the definition of Black resistance. Power to the people. You're amazing. You do all the things. So, what has this theme looked like over time, and what does it look like today to you?
Yeah. I think a lot of what my work and our work largely is like soapbox, my entity and stuff. A lot of what our work is around like kind of myth busting in a way or reframing. And so even before we kind of dig into that question itself and what Black resistance, the way I see it as historically, decades ago and today, as these we talk about it is important. Why are we talking about Black resistance in the first place, right? What are we resisting against? And I think it's important to name things, right? So we're resisting against, in large part, global white supremacy in different aspects. So I think when we talk about Black History Month and Black History Year, as I call a lot of ways, there's a lot of like uplifting and love and power and things that are centering Blackness, as it should be and always should be, but also there's a large part of that's like resisting against white supremacy in different facets. And with white supremacy, there's also capitalism, patriarchy, transphobia, all the isms that come with that, all the violences that come with that. And so I won't say it's two parts. I don't really believe in binaries, but I think we need to talk about all those things to be in a holistic manner. And so I think even with that question, it's like we tend to traditionally name civil rights heroes and folks that are always resisting against these invisible apparatuses of violence, and we don't name those things, they tend to be pervasive and still exist today. And we see lots of examples of that. And so one thing I just would, I guess, like implore everyone to think about it is what is not being said in conversations like this, and how do we name those things, very specific language. Because with that specific language allows us to challenge and uplift and actually work towards something in a very tangible way, in ways that may be very uncomfortable, in the ways that may bring up other isms that Black folks have, white folks have, beyond that as well. And so I just want to like name that as a framing reference for the whole conversation. But to get to the crux of the question, I think, Black resistance, when I was in high school, I was president of the Black Student Union. So we had like every year, Black History Month, we're always doing events and stuff. And so part of it was, what's the theme, the sub-theme this year? One of the themes was Black history is American history, which is very true. We can't talk about American history without including Black history and our contributions to this country. But also, even that's limited, right? Black history is global, right? Black people are everywhere, contributions are everywhere. But we tend to think of it as an American context. We live here, which makes sense in a lot of ways. We have to think about these things a lot bigger and a lot more internationally than ever before. And so I think what it has looked like, we take it from transatlantic slave trade of folks jumping from ships they didn't want to be enslaved, to Nat Turner's rebellion during enslavement, to Black power movements, to Black Summer years ago, to George Floyd 2020, to now tons of movements happening at the same time. We tend to think of those issues against cross institutions typically in the terms of policing, prisons, that's it. And really, we want to lean really into a Black radical tradition. We're thinking of healthcare. We're thinking of education. We're thinking of all the things we know the research says and that our ancestors knew to take care of each other in community, restorative justice, talking to each other, talking about our feelings. All those things are part of a healthy ecosystem for everybody, but especially in like Black radical traditions and Black ancestral traditions, Indigenous ancestral traditions, and really all of everyone's kind of history, but it shows up a lot more so in the Afrocentric kind of studies and thought processes and frameworks. And so I think all that is resistance, even though it is very positive and it's without the other of the enemy. I think there is a lot of like radical movement and work and things we can name, and will probably be named throughout the entire month anyway, that we can point to and are important, but also these things that are centered around love and centered around Black people and Indigenous traditions without even considering the other, considering the violence of the isms, I think is also important as well. So as we kind of start this conversation throughout the whole month, I think it's important to just take all that into consideration the whole time, because it's going to be a lot to chew on for this month and hopefully for the rest.
Ella Baker was was a freedom fighter, and she taught us how to fight.
When we say abolition, we're talking about creating new relationships between human beings.
We want to provide energy and effort into community work, into transformative justice. Prisons and police do not mean justice.
If policing worked, Chicago would be the safest city in America.
Way to cut down on police interactions, to take resources away from them and reinvest those resources in the community.
And then we got a lot of work to do. We got a whole lot of work to do. We got 7 generations of work to do.
Again, let's just take a step back and like, what do we need now as a society, as a globe, to actually do better in the world and create a world that we just prioritizes love. It sounds corny, it sounds cliche, but we're not doing it, and we can if you look to our ancestors.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you had mentioned earlier in the summer of 2020, seemed like more, in my perspective anyway, it seemed like more people started asking that why, like, why did this happen? How is it continuing to happen? And is there something that we can do? Those were the things that rolled around in my head the most.
Colin, I'm totally with you that it's been a really weird time, but I also am left even in the nastiness of it's a hopeful time, because I think those conversations are happening. There's more and more people who are going, oh, wait, what? Than have ever happened before, it seems like. And so that gives me hope that through this positivity and through action, and to me, that's the message for students. That there is change to be had, right? You're not trapped in the system. You can change the system, because the system in the end is made of people, and people can learn to be better.
Yeah, it's all just people doing things. None of this stuff is permanent. It's all just people making decisions.
Yeah.
And we can make other decisions. You know what I mean?
Let my people go.
Let my people go.
Set my people free.
Set my people free.
I'm letting my people know.
I'm letting my people know.
I love you like you and me.